Hello everybody, welcome back. Happy Sunday. So on Sundays I post non-recipe videos. So based on the title, I'm sure you can tell that it's not a recipe video. And I'm actually super nervous to post this today. The actually only reason I'm actually going through with it is because I told you guys, and it's part of a collaboration. And I'll get into that in just a second. But if this video ends up going down the next couple of days, it'll be because I was super anxious and like regretted it. But I am so torn between talking about this, which I feel like I should be talked about, and I'm also really scared. And I think that the reason why I'm scared is because of the situation that I was put in, which obviously you'll hear about that in this video. And I have like the overwhelming feel of like, or fear of feeling like I'm going to be in trouble if I talk about it. And I'm so scared that he's going to reach out to me, and I'm so scared that I don't know, like that everyone's gonna know. People who know who I was with at this time in my life will know exactly who it is, and I'm so nervous about that. And while I was making notes for this video, I kept checking. I'm like, am I sure it was abusive? Like, was he just like, maybe he was just mean, or maybe he was just like in a bad mood, like maybe he was a nice boyfriend, like maybe he wasn't abusive. And I'm like, no, like, no, that's really not the way it was. And I keep second guessing myself, and I think that that's a lot of, but it's bringing me back to the way I felt when I was actually with him. And I'm nervous. So my mind is like in a million places right now. I have no idea like what sentence I just said. I have no idea. But okay, I was also this nervous when I did my anxiety video, and it helped a lot of you guys. So I feel like if it helps any one of you, it's absolutely worth it. And if it helps get you out of a situation that you're in that isn't healthy, or if it helps prevent you from getting into a situation similar to mine or worse than mine or anything like that, then this is worth it. God, everyone's gonna know. It's not like I did anything wrong, but I'm so worried that everybody's gonna know, because I know like a lot of people in my personal life watch my videos. And if he's watching this, if you're watching this, and I'm not saying your name, I'm not saying anything that will like identify you to people who don't already know who you are, please don't reach out. I'm not doing this to like assassinate your character. I'm not doing this to like just for fun and just to create drama. That's not my personality at all. You know that. This isn't about you at all, except for the fact that I was impacted by what you did. And so please don't reach out to me. Please don't. Please just don't. Just leave it. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is to help people. And maybe you know what you did, maybe you don't. I don't know. But if you decide to keep watching this video, I hope that if you take anything from it, just don't do it again to anybody else. Just don't. And maybe you'll see how what you did impacted me, and how it still impacts me, because I'm sitting here and I feel like crying, and I'm really scared. So yeah, anyways, okay, so can we just go back to making food videos? Okay, anyways, I have my coffee, and I'm gonna lighten the mood. It's in a Louis Vuitton mug, not real Louis Vuitton. I am not that rich. Maybe one day. But yeah, anyways, I thought it looked cute, so. Oh, so nice. Okay. I'm so scared. Okay, so anyways, also one of the main reasons why I wanted to share this with you guys is because I feel like it's super important to kind of create, just to create a bond with you guys, and to have you guys learn a lot about me. And this is a huge, massive, significant part of my life. And I was with him for years, I think, like just shy of 3 years, and my bra is falling off. And yeah, so it was huge. I thought I was going to marry him. We talked about kids. We had a lot of discussions like that. So I think that's why it's impacted me so much. And I'm very glad that now I can go into relationships and not feel like I have too much baggage from him, because it's been long enough that I'm able to see things from a different perspective. But yeah, anyway, it's 6 minutes and the intro isn't going to be 6 minutes, but so far I've filmed for 6 minutes and this is, oh my god. Okay. Anyways, so this video is also in collaboration with my lovely friend Chris. He runs the Rewired Soul YouTube channel, and he and I talk like literally all the time. We get along so well. There's a lot of similarities between him and I, whatever. And we're super close friends, and so he's like, do a video, let's collab, like let's like do a video on mental health. I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm doing this video, and he is doing one on, I keep forgetting what it is, and I feel awful. Like, I feel like the most unsupportive friend. What did he put? I have Facebook open right now. It is being held emotional hostage. So I don't even fully know what that means, so I'm gonna go watch his video when it goes up. But I'm actually filming this first, and then I'm gonna upload it, and then he's gonna watch my video and then like take notes from it. So I think that's a really, really cool way of doing it, because it kind of you get the perspective from me who was in it, and then you get someone who has like a more like objective perspective, and somebody who can maybe I don't know, like analyze it in a way that I can't. So I think that's really, really cool. And if you guys suffer from anxiety or addiction or depression or anything like that, whatever, I'm so nervous. Head on over to his channel. His videos are really, really, really good. And siren, can you guys hear that? Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, they're super helpful, and I really think it will help so many people, because it's definitely helped me. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into this. My stomach just like sank. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, I practiced this last night. I was sitting on my couch like saying it out loud. I'm like, I did it so well last night. I should have just been filming it last night. Okay, so I hope you can't hear that siren, but I don't know. It's real life. As long as like the fire alarm doesn't go off in my building, then we're fine. Okay, so alright, so this guy, I'm not gonna say his name. Should I like put like a substitute name? Everybody does that on YouTube. Okay, so we will call him Eric, and that is in no way at all close to his real name. So I'm going to be respectful. I'm not someone to just like rip people apart online and be like, go to his Facebook page and tell him how horrible he is. No, I'm not gonna do that. So okay, so Eric, this is weird because like I don't know anybody named Eric. He and I met at well, when I was in Japan, when I was in third year university. I went on exchange to Japan, and I've talked about that a bunch of times. But I met him over there, and so I'm checking my notes because I'm like, what do I need to mention? We dated while in Japan for maybe about like, I think it was 3 months, and at the beginning and for the first year and a half with him, it was like, I've never been so happy. It was amazing. It was so nice, and I'm not going to discount that because I was happy then and it was nice, and those memories, it's weird. I look back fondly, and I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know if that's a symptom of the situation that I'm in or that I was in, but we laughed all the time. We were best friends. We talked all the time. We were like attached to the hip. It was so lovely, and we like toured Japan together. We went to Mount Fuji. There is a theme park at the base of Mount Fuji called Fuji-Q Highland, and Japanese accent just like came out there. And there was this like haunted hotel, like haunted house, which I should do a separate video on because no one is interested when I tell the story, and I think it's amazing, and it's like the scariest thing I have ever done, except for when I actually went to a haunted place in Australia, which was actually with this guy I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, I'll do a separate video on that later, so if you're in the mood for like a spooky video, that's coming. Okay, let me note that down because I am going to forget. Haunted hospital. I was so nervous, my legs were literally shaking. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, anyway. This video's gonna be long enough. I don't need to get off topic. So, anyways, the first year and a half with him was absolutely wonderful, and we talked about marriage, we talked about everything, and I think within that time I met his friends as well, and this is the one thing that still breaks my heart about the whole situation, is that his friends are so lovely, and I know that sometimes they watch my videos, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit nervous about shooting this, because I don't want to rip apart their friend, but that being said, he did these things and I didn't ask him to do them, so well, I don't know. But I still miss them, and I still wish that, like, I don't wish that I was in Australia, which is where he's from. It'll all pan out in a second. But I miss their friendship, and it's such a shame because they're such lovely people, and it was one of the main reasons why I held on for so long, because I really, really loved that they were so nice and warm and loving, and I wanted them in my life. So there's that. And oddly enough, though, early on with him, it was while we were still in Japan. So it was within the first 3 months. I remember where I was standing when I like had this thought come into my mind. I was like, something told me, it was like, if you ever break up, he will rip you apart and like not be nice about it. And I don't know why that thought came into my mind. I guess it was like my intuition. And my response at that time, which, if I ever have that thought again about anybody else, I will react differently. At that time I was like, well, I hope we never break up then, and then I just kept going. I continued on. And my lesson here to anybody is that if your gut is telling you something very, very clearly like that, even if there are very few, if not any, like, if they haven't done anything yet, but something tells you that they will not be nice to you if you break up, or when push comes to shove, you won't matter to them, or something like that, trust that feeling, because because your subconscious is seeing things that you haven't seen yet. So trust your ability to know that, and trust yourself. And I didn't, and this is one thing in my life. You see so many quotes that say like, oh, I don't regret anything that happened in my life because I learned from it, and I'm better for it now. And while there are many situations in my life that are true, that like when I think back, I'm like, oh, it's awful, but I got a lot out of it, so fine. If that has to be the way it happened, then fine. But this is not one of them. When I think back on this, I'm like, I don't know, I don't care what I learned from this situation. I don't care what positive happened to me. If I could go back, I would never go through this again. I would just erase this. This was so supremely awful, and it lasted for so long that I wouldn't wish this on anybody. And I don't want, if I could erase this from my past and lose any lesson I learned from it, I would do it in a heartbeat. Like, it just, ugh. So, notes. So the way that things progressed, it was very, very, very gradual, and I think that's why I didn't notice it right away. And a lot of it was like, oh, he did this, but he's nice normally, so maybe this is just a one-off thing. And oh, he said this, but maybe I was being slightly annoying, so maybe it's my fault. And a lot of like little things that when you add them up, it's disgusting. Like this many things, it's too light to see, but yeah, you can kind of see it's a whole page of writing. So when you add them up, it's awful, awful. But when they started to happen slowly, it wasn't, none of them were initially deal breakers in themselves, but when you add them up and when you start to feel like you're stupid and you're worthless and that there's something wrong with me and that I'm the problem, then you start to think about everything, and it all kind of came together. But what are you doing, Paddington? What are you doing? Paddington is chewing on my new rug that he pooped on this morning, so the joys of motherhood. Okay, so one of these instances where it started, like, the moment where I was like, this isn't okay, why does he think it's okay, was, and I'm not going to talk about specifics, but we were on a trip together, and his friend was there, and we were fooling around, and he slapped me across the face, and it wasn't like a light, playful tap, and it wasn't like a smack, but it was in between, and it didn't feel okay. It was like a, oh, that's really bordering hitting me. And I think I called him out on it, and my personality is not somebody who calls on anybody out. I am so, I'm so not like that. You could probably see by the way I'm talking, I'm so nervous. I'm very non-confrontational. And so I asked him, I was like, what? I think I asked, and I don't remember what he said, but a few minutes later, or within the next half hour, we were still like joking around, and he called me a whore. And I let it go, and it kept bothering me. And I don't know if it was the next night or that night, but I was talking about it. I'm like, this isn't, that's not a nice word. Like, why would you say that? And he didn't accept that it was wrong. He didn't accept that it hurt me, and he wouldn't accept that it was a hurtful word to use, and he thought it was my fault for being too sensitive. And then thinking back, I made a list, and then I should have mentioned this earlier anyway. And then there was also a time where we were shopping, and he saw a sweater that had stripes, and he pointed it out, and he's like, you shouldn't wear that because that'll make you look fat. And that is never okay to say. It doesn't matter what your size is. No one who is in a relationship with you, no one ever, okay? People just need to stop being assholes or rude. But I let it go, and I was just like, okay. I'm like, but he also knows nothing about fashion, so whatever, maybe he's just wrong. So that's how I justified that. And but anyways, yeah, so it was like a couple things, but nothing that was a huge red flag then. Now if that happened, I would react differently, because I've learned to react differently, and I've learned what these things mean, but at that point I didn't. And so I ended up moving to Australia with him because he was Australian, and the end goal, because we did long distance for a little bit after Japan, was that I moved to Australia with him, and we both go to school, do our master's degrees, and live together and have a happy family and live with dogs and have this amazing life. And we were both ready for it. We talked about whether or not we wanted kids. We were calling each other partner instead of boyfriend or girlfriend, because boyfriend or girlfriend didn't feel serious enough, and that was really, really nice to feel like I reached that stage. It was so nice, not because I felt like I had to like check it off or anything like that, but it was just I loved him, and he was such a central part of my life, and I was really, really excited. And when I moved down, some things happened when I moved down there, and I don't know if oh my god, sorry, Paddington's eating fluff because that is like his hobby. And I don't know if those things count as being abusive. I don't. I'm still in the process of learning like what's okay and how to read the signs, if I'm going to be completely honest. So I still don't know, but the gist of it was that we had a plan, a very clear plan that I confirmed before I moved down there, and then when I went down, everything was just completely different, and I had nobody on my side, and he's like, well, you're here now, this is what we're gonna do. And so I don't know if that's abusive or not, so I'm not gonna go into that, because I want to just touch on the things that were abusive or weren't just a fight. I don't know. So anyways, long story short, we broke up. I moved back to Canada, and in that time I was super, super upset, kind of honestly relieved that we'd broken up. This was the thing where I really, really missed his friends. I'm like, oh god, it was so nice to be with somebody whose friends I got along with as well. And we ended up getting back together, and I moved down because I'd already paid for the visa, which was a working holiday visa for Australia, where you can work, you can stay for a year, you can work for 6 months at 2 different places. And I was like, well, I already like paid for the visa, like I want to get my money's worth. And it was like $100 and something, I think, for the visa, so it wasn't a lot of money, like in the whole scheme of things, in the like, is it worth following through and like sticking with someone who's a complete jerk? It was not worth going back for the visa and then having to deal with him again. And because things got a lot worse when I went back, and I thought everything was okay. And I mean, I was young. This was my first very serious like relationship where I like moved for somebody, so I didn't know, and I thought things were fixed, and they weren't. And I thoroughly regret going back. But before I did, I was super, super upset about the breakup and everything like that. My anxiety manifested itself in a way that I wasn't hungry. And I talked about that in my last anxiety video, and that's when it started. It started with him, where I get so anxious that I completely lose my appetite, like, for days. So I lost about 20 pounds in the span of 3 weeks. And 20 pounds from, like, around, like, this weight or a little bit heavier. So I'd say, I don't know, I'm 5'7", and I was at, like, 141 pounds, and that seems normal, but I think for me it's not a good weight. Or I was even getting into, like, the 130s, I think. And when I laid on my back in my bed, my pelvis like jutted out, and if I lifted my arms above my head, you could, like, see my entire rib cage. It was awful. And because I was so stressed and, like, upset about what had happened, and I wasn't hungry, and I tried eating watermelon and I was gagging. Like, it was awful. So I thought that moving back would fix it, and no, it didn't. So anyways, I moved back, and the second or third day, we were staying at his friend's house, and we were joking around because that's what we always did. And I got, like, this blanket, and I, like, threw it over his head to, like, annoy him, but, like, for fun, annoy him. And I kept doing it, and I thought we were having fun, and then he stopped, and he's like, "You're being a real C word." I'm not saying it because it's a disgusting word, but he's like, "You're being a real right now." And I was like, "What?" And he said it again, and so I left the room, and I burst into tears, and I was like, I completely lost for words. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, why would he say that word to me? And previously he talked about how awful that word is, how he'd never use that for anybody, how he hates that word so much, it's disgusting, and yet he used it on me. And all of his friends were in the room as well, and they seemed shocked as well. And he came into the room, and he, like, wouldn't even apologize. I think he only kind of half apologized because I was upset and he didn't want me to be upset anymore. But I should have left then. I should have left then. At like 2 days into being back there, I should have left. But I didn't, because such a long flight, honestly. That's probably why, because it was such a hassle getting there that I didn't want to just, like, turn around and leave because it was expensive. But I should have left. So we ended up finding a place to live, and he was applying to schools for his postgraduate? That means master's, right? Yeah, whatever. And I have my degree. So I was working part-time. I was working as a waitress, and if you guys are curious, where did I work? I worked at Degree's Espresso in Melbourne. If you guys are in Melbourne, that's where I worked. And the coffee there was so good. Oh my god. Anyways, but I worked morning shifts, and so I think I woke up at like 6 o'clock or something, and I had to be there by 7 or something, and I worked until 4, and waitressing is exhausting. I completely respect anybody who does it, because it is exhausting. And so when I'd come home, I'd come home at like 4 or 5 and be, like, exhausted and, like, pass out on the couch. And then, like, wake up and make dinner or stuff like that. And so he was at home. I don't know what he was doing. And there was one time I went home, and I don't remember what it was, but I think I fell asleep, and he'd asked me if I could, like, dry the dishes off, and I fell asleep by accident. And then I woke up, and then he got mad at me for falling asleep and not washing the dishes, but, like, irrationally mad at me. And I didn't, when I'm in situations like that where I feel like the response is so obvious and clear, and, like, that why is this even an issue, that I just don't respond. And I'm now learning that you still have to respond, because people don't realize how silly a stupid argument is. But I'm like, you've been home, but, like, he'd been home all day, and he could have just done it. And I'd be working, I was working all day, I was completely exhausted, and I passed out on the couch, and then I was getting yelled at because I didn't dry the dishes. I'm like, couldn't he just have helped me out and do it and done it? Like, I don't understand, still don't understand why he couldn't have just helped, like, being a good boyfriend and supportive. And that was that was where he started to get really, really mean. And I mean, like, it's like saying that after I said he called me the C word. I mean, like, I don't know. It's all awful, but I think that part in my mind is when it really started to go downhill. There's another time, and I feel really weird talking about this online because it's personal. I don't know. But anyway, he and I were together. You can imagine. And he stopped, and in the most, this is the worst thing he's ever done, in the most arrogant and condescending and like mean tone, he like looked down at me with like just like this look on his face that like he hated me, or he thought I was like pathetic, and he's like, you need some practice. And then he just got up and left, and I burst out crying. I was sitting in a room and crying and crying and crying, and I was waiting for him to come back and apologize, because I'm like, how can you say that to somebody who you claim to have once loved, like to somebody who you talked about getting married to and having children with, and somebody who you said that you loved. How can you just be so like senselessly cruel and seem to somehow enjoy it? And so I waited because I was like, he's gonna come back and apologize, because he has to, because you can't, no one can be that awful, no one can do that, like he has to have some compassion to come back and apologize. And I waited, and I kept crying, and I waited for like 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then I think that turned out to about a half hour, and I was like sick to my stomach to the thought that like, did he not, like, he hasn't come back, like he's not apologizing, he's just, he doesn't care, he doesn't care. And so I walked into the living room, and I told him, like, or I asked him or something, I'm like, are you gonna apologize for what you said? And I was like, I think shivering, I'm sure, I was like, my face was covered in tears, and he saw how upset I was, and he looked at me with like no emotion on his face and was just like, no, like he didn't care at all. And I just like, I don't understand, I don't understand. I don't, and I'm glad that I don't understand, because I'm glad that I will never be able to say that or make anybody I love feel like that, because it's just, I feel it now, and it's awful. And so I just left the room, and I was like, oh my god, like, what is happening? What is happening to this situation? I thought we were gonna be together forever. Like, what happened to this? Like, it went from like this amazing, like, happy life to this. Like, what happened? I had no idea what happened, and I didn't know, like, what did I do? Like, what changed? And honestly, even now, I don't know what shifted, but this isn't the end, so keep watching. And then there was another time where I was applying to university, and I was gonna go see the university, and you had to wake up early to like go, and he agreed to go with me. Ooh, I kicked the tripod. He had agreed to go with me that like the night before. And so I woke up in the morning, I was getting ready, I tried to wake him up, he's like, 5 more minutes, and I'm like, okay, fine. And then I tried to wake him up again, and he's like, you know, I'm too tired, like, I don't want to go. And I got so upset, and I'm like, thanks for your support, and I was angry, and I like slammed the door, and that's not like me at all. I don't know if we talked about it, but I think I just left, and I was so hurt. I'm like, I flew halfway across the world for you, and you can't just like wake up and go with me to something that means so much to me. And I was so upset, and I came home that night, and he was like fuming at me. He was so mad. Like, it lasted for days, to be completely honest, and he really just like ripped into me, but like how completely awful I was, and how ungrateful, and how he always supports me, always helps me, and there's just this one single time that he wasn't, and how I was being so ridiculous and insane. And there was a lot of, I'm noticing this now as I'm talking about it, there was a lot of flipping things around to somehow make it my issue. And I think the proper term is gaslighting, and that is, I actually heard that term after we woke up, and I'm like, oh my god. Where it's a form of manipulation, where people tell you that you're perceiving a situation wrong or incorrectly, and they make it out to be your fault or something, and they just kind of, I will leave a Wikipedia link in the description box because it will explain it far better than I can, but I think that's what happened. And I ended up having to apologize and beg for his forgiveness for being upset with him that he didn't go and that he bailed last minute. So there was a lot of that. And we ended up moving to Sydney, and things were okay for a couple of days because it's like a fresh environment and you forget all the bad stuff that's going on. Things started getting even worse, where when we were just hanging out in our apartment and I started talking to him, he'd get mad at me. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you can't just start talking to me out of the blue. Like, you have to like check to see if it's okay. And I'm like, what am I hearing? And I'm like, what? I'm like, so I need to like ask permission if I can talk to you before I say something. And he said yes. And I think I confirmed about 3 or 4 times because I'm like, are you kidding me? And I wasn't angry because I was scared about getting in trouble. I was so scared about fighting or getting yelled at that I was like, okay, fine, like I'll just do it. And yeah, so it was so awkward. It felt so awkward being like, hey, can I talk to you about something? Or anything, like making random comments about anything. I had to ask permission to talk, basically. And anything I did that was slightly noisy, I remember he'd get mad at. I remember, so I was filming, so that I started filming YouTube at that time, and if you watched my video where I talked about like what my videos are really about and the behind the scenes, I explained like when I was in that first condo and when I in the apartment and when I moved. And so this was the time when I just started filming, so I think I filmed like 4 videos in this unit. And I was filming something that I thought it was gonna be a series. I think I called it like Taste Bunny or something stupid like that, where I was trying like vinegar drinks, and I wanted to film, you can see how like my tone changes when I talk about something that actually makes me happy. But I wanted to film or like taste like these vinegar juices that I saw at the grocery store, and I don't know how I feel about them, but I wanted to film like an intro specifically for like that series that I wanted to become. And so I remember I was filming it, and as I was filming it, he was like, I think sitting in bed because it was a studio apartment, and I was quizzing him on like Japanese words because we met in Japan. He loves Japan, and I thought it would be fun, like lighten the mood, and I wasn't in trouble basically in that moment, so I could be light, and I was trying so hard to be light. And I was quizzing him, and then he just stopped and he's like, why are you asking me these words? He's like, why would I remember these words? I haven't studied this in so long. And he got mad at me, and I had to like apologize, and I felt like my internal dialogue was like, why would you think he would remember? Like, why would you think that this would be fun? Like, this isn't right. And then almost in the same breath, he criticized me, saying that my voice was too squeaky. And I don't know if he commented on my weight, but so for some reason my mind is like connecting the two, but I don't remember what happened there. But yeah, he told me that my voice was too squeaky and that it was just awful, basically. And then this is where it peaked, and this is where I was actually able in the moment to recognize that something was seriously wrong, because up to that I was just more or less shocked that the relationship that I thought was amazing was just like crumbling in front of me, and I had no idea what had happened. And there were all now like these rules that I had to follow, and that I was just annoying him all the time, and that something was just going seriously wrong. We were coming home from doing something one night, and we were on the 2nd floor of like the building that we were in, and the stairs were carpeted, so we were walking up the stairs, and he was walking behind me, and he pushed me down onto the stairs. So like, you know when you're walking up the stairs and you fall up the stairs, so you just like fall onto the stairs, that's what it was like. And I thought he was just teasing me because we're kind of teasing each other, and like sometimes we wrestled, so I thought that was what that was. And so I'm like, hey, and then I got up, and then as I was like halfway pushing myself up, he pushed me down again, but it was a lot harder, and I skinned my knee, and like a rush of like fear went through me. I'm like, that felt angry. Like that push felt angry. And then I think he told me to like hurry up and like keep walking up the stairs, and he didn't acknowledge that he hurt me. And then we went into, look, my fingers are all like nervous. And anyways, then we went into our unit, and I tried to lighten the mood because somehow it was my job. I tried to lighten the mood, and I got his clothes that were like hanging off the back of his desk chair, and I like just pushed them onto like the seat of the chair. Like literally all you would have to do, not even refold them because they maintain their shape. It was just to be like fun and annoying and try to like regain like kind of like playful mood. And he looked at me and he was so mad. So like it was like I had killed his baby. It was so I don't know why that is the worst analogy. I'm so sorry. It was like, yeah, anyway, he was like fuming. There was like fire in his eyes, and I'm like, sorry, like, oh god. Like, why did I do that? Like, why are you, like, oh, why did you do that? And so I sat at my desk, and then he came over to my desk, and my desk had, like, I don't know, similar stuff there's on now. Like, so, like, some, like, ceramic-y stuff and some, like, fragile stuff. Not stuff that you want to just, like, throw across the room. And, he stood in front of it, and he got his hand, and he just slid everything off the desk. And I caught it all. I don't know how, but I, like, scrambled to catch it all. And as I was, like, scrambling, I'm like, he just did that. I'm like, that's physical now. Like, this is the beginning of when it can get so much worse. And I didn't end it then. But I was scared, and it was a very, very, what's the word? Sobering point? Is that the right term? Anyways, it was a bit of a wake-up call to where I recognized that things were not going well. And we eventually ended up going on a break, which turned into a breakup, thank God. When it was just another stupid fight. And then after, I just like burst into tears, and I think I said I can't do this anymore. I don't know who started it, but either way we ended up going to break, and it was just like, I was so relieved. But we had to continue to live together for, I think the lease was up for another 6 months, which was awful. And I had already planned to go back to Canada to like see everybody, and this was before the breakup had happened, so I was just planning to do that anyways. And so there was that in like, I think like 2 weeks from like when we broke up, so I was like, just survive these weeks. And I had started working in Sydney at another cafe, and before I was heading to work, I remember he told me, because there were moments where we were like nice to each other, and then there were moments where I was like, we were just mean to each other. When you're breaking up and you have to live together in like a studio apartment that's like literally basically like the size of my office, it was awful. He told me that there was a girl in his class, because he was in school then, that there was a girl that he'd been talking to, and they'd been like flirting, and they liked each other. And when I was in Canada, he was gonna like bring her over to our unit and like sleep with her in the bed that we bought together as a couple. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. Not because I wanted him, but just, it's just awful. It's like an awful thing to say. And I had to go to work, so I went to work, and obviously that was like the only thing I could think of was what he said. And I was on the stupid ice cream station at work, because there was an ice cream station, and the ice cream, they always froze it too firmly, and I have zero upper body strength, so I was trying to like scoop the ice cream, and I couldn't get through because I wasn't able to like scoop it properly because it was so firm. And I think it was like a Friday night or something, and there were like so many people around the ice cream station like getting mad at me because I wasn't scooping it fast enough. And then someone complained to my boss, and I'm just like, oh my god, like you guys have no idea what I'm trying to deal with. And I just felt like awful. And like one of my friends, he came to the ice cream stand and helped me, and it was, I really appreciate that. So thank you if you're watching, you know who you are. But that was a really rough night. And anyways, so he eventually moved out, and god, he wanted me to like store his stuff because he didn't feel like moving it all into residence. So I'm like, no. And then I said no, then he got mad at me for saying no. But But I moved out, I broke the lease, and that was actually the point where I finally felt like an adult, because I had to go through all this stuff and this paperwork for breaking a lease and try to pretend I understood half this stuff, like electricity, or I don't know what the hell I was doing, but do this all myself because obviously he wasn't helping. And I finally sorted it out and it was working and it was like good, and I moved into a new place and it felt so nice to finally just start fresh, and it was a beautiful unit, and I was starting school, and it was just like a nice fresh start. And I did not enjoy the rest of my time there, to be completely honest. There were a lot of other things that happened, and unfortunately that's not where the story ends. I think maybe about like 10 months after, he reached out, and something had happened for me that I'm not going to go hugely into, but I was feeling super alone at that point. And so I met up with him, and we hung out a little bit, and I was talking to him, and I told him about something that had happened in between the time that we met up again and the time that we broke up. And I'm not going to go into it. I don't think I'll ever really talk about it because I just don't feel comfortable with it. But to give you guys an idea, it goes along with the whole #MeToo movement. And so I told him what happened. And he looked at me and he's like, well, you had it coming. And I'm like, how do you respond with, like, how awful do you have to be to, when someone tells you something that so traumatic that happened, you say you had it coming? Like, no. And then I still hung out with him because I was lonely, because stupid. And then another time, like a couple days later, I was talking about YouTube, and I was like super excited about everything. And he's like, you know, no man will ever want to be with a woman who works as hard as you do, right? And I was like, in my mind, in person, I just like was like, okay. But in my mind, I'm like, thank you for saying that, because everybody who is successful always has that one person who tells them that they have no talent and that they're going to go nowhere in life and that they may as well just quit now, and how like untalented they are and how awful they are and everything like that. And I'm like, well, thank you for giving me that quote, because I'm going to use that in the next or in an interview I'm in, or in a magazine article I'm in. Like, I will use that and I will tell them my ex said that, and now look at me now. And I was interviewed by Forbes a couple months ago, and I didn't mention that in the article, but right before we were about to have the interview, I thought of that, and I'm like, this is the best turn of events, because like, here we are and it happened, and I am so much better now. So yeah, my throat is so hoarse. I am not worried, I'm not stressed anymore. But oh, also one more thing, checking my notes. I'm okay now in terms of relationships. What happened with him, it took me years and years and years to kind of just process and work through. And there were a lot of situations where, especially immediately after, the guy I dated right after him, I remember we were sitting, and we broke up obviously, but he was very nice and gentle, and we were sitting on our laptops working in my condo, and I was typing, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm typing so loud, like, he's gonna get pissed off. And I waited and didn't say anything. I'm like, I bet you he's like brewing, he's gonna get so mad in a second. And then I was like doing something, I was editing, and I was like clicking like a bunch of times, and I'm like, I'm so sorry that I'm clicking so loud, like, I'm so sorry if it bothers you. And he's like, no. I was like, it's fine. And then I paused, and I was like, how insane. Like, I have to apologize for typing, and I don't, maybe do I type loud? I don't even know. It doesn't even matter if I type loud or not. Like, that is so stupid to apologize for something like that. Like, so beyond stupid to have to apologize for the sound that your keyboard makes when you type. And that's how I feel about him now. So, it's been very weird for me calling it an abusive relationship, because part of me feels like, well, he didn't bruise me. But there are many different kinds of abuse, and there was a lot of emotional abuse and manipulation and gaslighting. A lot of gaslighting where I felt like everything was my fault, and if I only behaved better, if I only didn't say these things, if I was a better person, if I was more responsible, if all these things, then these issues wouldn't be here, and then we'd be in a good relationship. And that is absolutely not the case. If somebody you're with does one of these things that I mentioned, that's not a good sign. Like, I consider that a red flag, and I am like hesitant to give advice because I am obviously, I've been through it, and I'm still very non-confrontational, and it's still a lot of work for me to talk to somebody. If they do something that hurts me, it's still very hard for me to like address it. And yeah, so I'm still not the best at it. Hopefully in a few years from now, if I ever get married and I'm with somebody who is warm and loving, and I almost want to cry because I'm like, I cannot wait to be with someone who is nice and who doesn't make me feel like I am stupid and worthless and just messing everything up. And I can't wait to be in a healthy relationship, and that is the best revenge. And yeah, so if you are in a relationship, or if you're struggling with something or anything like that, I'm going to leave phone numbers and ways to get help in the description box below, and also on the screen. So I'm in Canada, so I'm going to try to see, I should have looked this up before I filmed this video, but if there are numbers, I'm sure there are, for domestic abuse hotlines, they will be on the screen right now, because you deserve to be happy, you deserve to feel safe, and you deserve to be with somebody who is kind to you and who cares about you, not just some of the time, all the time. You deserve, I mean, everybody fights, but you don't deserve to feel like you're scared or belittled or anything like that. So reach out to anybody who's close to you, or confide in people. That is so important, because a lot of the time you don't realize what you're in until you're out of it, or until you get an objective opinion. And I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions, and I think one came in. Let me just double check to see if there are any more. But I wanted to ask if you guys had any questions. I posted matcha pancakes and someone responded no with like a fist. Okay. Alright, so someone asked, how and when did you realize you were in an abusive relationship? So, after we broke up, actually, I watched a lot of Dr. Phil. And the reason why, actually, was because it was all over YouTube, and there were like full episodes on YouTube, and I was so upset and so emotionally drained that, it was too much to find a new video after like a 5-minute one had ended. I just wanted to click on something and then just leave it for an hour and just sit in bed and just like basically emotionally heal. I forgot to include this, but basically the thing about not being hungry, not being able to eat, that happened again after we broke up the second time. And I had my mom, I called my mom in Australia, my mom was in Canada, and like I couldn't even get off the floor and sit on a chair. Like, that took too much energy. I was broken. So I watched a lot of Dr. Phil, and obviously what happened to me, like the stuff that he talks about is a lot more serious, and I don't want to, or it's just different degrees of things, and I'm not going to say that it's worse, or I don't know, because everybody struggles with things, and just because you're struggling with something that like someone else might be having double doesn't mean you're not in pain. So whatever. But I just listened, and I noticed when he was talking about like emotional abuse and stuff like that, I related a lot of stuff to what I was going through. I'm like, oh, actually that's that. And so it was a lot of that where I kind of like put the pieces together. I'm like, oh my god, he was abusive. And I'm like, I can't believe I was in an abusive relationship. And it was like shock and like in denial almost at first, because I had no idea. I'm like, but like that's what that was. And it felt validating. And at the same time, I'm also very, very scared, because I know that, or I don't know, but I'm scared that people will say like, you're calling it abusive just to like say it's abusive, but it actually wasn't. Just because I was manipulated for so long, and it's very, very easy to, I still feel like it's very easy for me to get back into that mind frame where if somebody tells me that I'm exaggerating, I'll be like, oh, okay. So, anyways, that's my story. Oh my gosh, I think it's gonna be like an hour-long video. I'm gonna edit it right now anyways. But yeah, I'm super nervous. I hope that you guys, got something from this video. If he comments, I'm going to block it. So I'll be on like high alert for that. Oh, God, this is not fun. But anyway, it's snowing today and it's nice outside. So at least we have that. And again, check out Chris's video. I'll have it linked here so that you can see his opinion on everything that happened and learn about what being held as an emotional hostage is, because I'm super curious and he is so intelligent and like really, really great at this stuff. So head on over to his channel and I will see you guys on Tuesday for another recipe. It is a last minute Valentine's Day recipe, so if you have somebody lovely in your life or you just want to treat yourself, there are 3 recipes that like no one will know that you did these last minute. Like, I actually like them better than like all the other Valentine's Day recipes I did this year. So like, yeah. Anyways, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching through. If you watched the entire length of the video, like my voice is so hoarse, so like but yeah, I love you so much. And again, I'll have the phone numbers on the screen again if you need them. And if you're going through anything or if you're struggling, comment down below. I'll be in the comments and I will respond, and I send you all my love. I know how awful it is, and I hope that you get safety and everything gets better. So I love you guys so much. Mwah.